We are living through a threshold moment. The uncertainties that once governed our world are dissolving, making space for new possibilities, new paradigms and new questions. It is in this dynamic, uncertain now that the NDTV World Summit 2025 sets its compass towards what must be discovered, what needs to be imagined, and what we should define collectively.
The catchphrase is "for the greater good." For ultimately, that is what defines the world of which we too are a part of. A world shaped as much by complexity as by contradictions. It is in this world that such a summit aims but for an aggregation of conversations. NDTV World Summit 2025 is going to be the gathering of thought leaders who come to question the familiar, the uncertain, and to explore what must now be reimagined and newly understood. The NDTV World Summit 2025 is designed to mark an extraordinary moment in global dialogue. It is bringing together some of the most influential voices of the times. Among them, two serving Prime Ministers, Narendra Modi of India and Harini Amarasuriya of Sri Lanka. Two former Prime Ministers, Rishi Sunak of the United Kingdom and Tony Abbott of Australia. Their rare presence together are a powerful reflection of the summit's stature and importance in shaping the most urgent and important conversations of the now.
The NDTV World Summit will be held on the 17th and 18th of October 2025 in New Delhi. The theme of the 2025 edition, Edge of the Unknown, Risk, Resolve, Renewal. It captures the essence of this threshold moment in history. It is an invitation to confront uncertainty with imagination, to see resolve not as reaction, but as deliberate intention, and to embrace renewal not as a return to the past, but as the creation of futures yet to be defined.
The 2025 edition of the NDTV World Summit will bring together an extraordinary gathering of minds, heads of state, cultural icons, business architects, innovators, and voices of moral imagination to engage in a new kind of dialogue. A dialogue rooted in courageous questioning, in thought exploration of what it means to navigate complexity with clarity and conscience. She is called the quantum ballerina, a scientist who splits her time between physics labs and ballet studios. Dr. Merit Moore, Oxford physicist, quantum researcher and professional ballerina, joins the NDTV World Summit in New Delhi, bringing science, art and inspiration together all on one stage. From working on cutting-edge quantum technology to performing graceful pirouettes under stage lights, Merit Moore represents the spirit of balance between reason and rhythm, logic and imagination. Known for her groundbreaking work in quantum computing and robotics, Moore has also danced with some of the world's top ballet companies, proving that science and art can't just coexist, but even thrive together. At the NDTV World Summit, Dr. Merit Moore will explore how artificial intelligence and human intelligence can co-create the future, and why emotional creativity might just be humanity's next big advantage.
As the world moves between contradiction and creativity, between exhaustion and emergence, the NDTV World Summit 2025 will stand as a stage for reconciliation, for possibility and for vision. It will be where dissolving certainties are confronted and tomorrow's ideas are forged. It will be where India's story of ambition, reinvention and resilience is placed at the center of the global dialogue.
For nearly 3 decades, Professor Tarun Khanna studied entrepreneurship as a means to social and economic development in emerging markets. Today, he teaches a course titled Contemporary Developing Countries at Harvard Business School. Professor Khanna has been teaching at the Harvard Business School since 1993 courses of significance to the growing mind, courses on strategy, international business and economic development. At the NDTV World Summit, Professor Khanna will be sharing his views on emerging markets and entrepreneurship and talking about his personal experiences with the interdisciplinary exploration of the roots of meritocracy while sharing lessons on entrepreneurship in the context of societal attributes like dynamism and inequality. Under the stewardship of Neil Thompson, NDTV World Summit 2025 will probe the concept of the rise of machines in a world of human needs. Does it lead to command or does it lead to chaos? Neil Thompson is the expert to guide this conversation as he is an innovation scholar at MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab and the Initiative on the Digital Economy. He did his PhD in Business and Public Policy at UC Berkeley, where he also did a master's in Computer Science and Statistics. Additionally, he has a master's in Economics from the London School of Economics and undergraduate degrees in Physics and International Development. Neil Thompson advises businesses and government on the future of Moore's Law and machine learning and has been on US National Academy's panels on transformational technologies and scientific reliability. He was previously an assistant professor of innovation and strategy at the MIT Sloan School of Management, where he co-directed the Experimental Innovation Lab, the XLab. So who better than Neil Thompson to talk about the rise of machines and the human dependency on AI fraught with challenge. Born in March 1970 in Gal on Sri Lanka's southwestern coast, she came to India on a scholarship. Harini Amarasuriya enrolled in Delhi University's Hindu College, where she completed her BA Honours in Sociology and went on to earn a Master's in Applied Anthropology and Development from Macquarie University in Australia and a doctorate in Social Anthropology from the University of Edinburgh. She had had no inkling that she would end up as the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. The universe works in mysterious ways. Her career began in community health, and in 2024, she became the third woman to hold the post of Prime Minister in Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister of Sri Lanka entered mainstream politics when her work in the humanitarian sector brought her in conflict with those who had the power to dictate to the future. In 2011, when the Rajapaksas were in absolute power, Harini was one of those who protested against the government. And when the Maithripala Sirisena government came to power in 2015, she turned left towards the Marxist-Leninist political party Janata Vimukti Peramuna. On day one of the NDTV World Summit 2025, Dr. Harini Amarasuriya will speak at length on the subject Tides of Transition, Steering Change in Uncertain Times.
Will be my first official visit to India as the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. So looking forward to participating in the NDTV World Summit, where I will have the opportunity to engage with global leaders and thinkers.
The NDTV World Summit is a crucible of influence where ideas, imagination and intention converge. The presence of two serving Prime Ministers and two former Prime Ministers, alongside a wide constellation of change makers and global leaders, is a powerful testimony to the urgency the summit creates. It's a reflection of India's position at the heart of the world's conversation and the country's growing role in shaping a collective future. The theme of the 2025 edition of the NDTV World Summit is Edge of the Unknown, Risk, Resolve, Renewal. Across several sessions spread over 2 days, the summit this year captures the essence of a threshold moment in history by tracing its trajectory through 3 distinct arcs: risk, resolve, and renewal. Risk not as fear, but as a frontier. Resolve not as a reaction, but as an intention. And renewal not as restoration of what was, but as regeneration of what could be.
From geopolitics to technology, from ecology to culture, from the architecture of economies to the imagination of societies, the NDTV World Summit is a platform that seeks to move beyond analysis. Like before, in its second year too, NDTV World Summit is tasked to unpack the stimuli for strategic, environmental, technological and societal risks that might define coming times. From generative AI to global realignments, from democratic backsliding to data sovereignty, from climate tipping points to psychological thresholds, the future is to be viewed as a terrain to be understood and shaped rather than perceived as a threat.
जब दुनिया चिंता में डूबी है, तब भारत आशा का संचार कर रहा है.
The summit will spotlight those who are responding with clarity, courage and conviction. Leaders who are redefining growth to mean inclusion. Innovators who are building with purpose. Citizens who are reimagining the purpose of being and becoming. Institutions that are recalibrating to the idea of good. He was in India in 1981 for 3 months, backpacking through the experience of not just finding oneself, but finding out about India. He has written that even then it was obvious to him that democratic, free India was going to be one of the world's leading countries. He has written that even then it was obvious to him that democratic, free India was going to be one of the world's leading countries. When Tony Abbott became Prime Minister of Australia, he did not waver, but expanded on his long-held belief. To Tony Abbott, India has emerged as a democratic superpower, more than capable of providing leadership that the world often needs and that America alone cannot always give. As a former Australian Prime Minister and a current Special Trade Envoy, Tony Abbott has played a significant role in strengthening economic and strategic ties with India. Since leaving office, his advocacy has focused on promoting India as a key democratic and economic partner for Australia, especially in contrast to China. For this Australian politician, India is already a superpower, the second democratic superpower the world has seen. At the World Summit, Tony Abbott will be speaking on the Indo-Pacific friendship, trade, security, strategy.
From rewiring global systems to rekindling local communities, the summit will examine how renewal must begin with narrative and how stories shape systems. What do we choose to believe about the future, and how do these beliefs shape the futures we build? This summit will offer a multitude of directions for truth, hope, and transformation, for reconciliation across longitudes in a brave new world.
If ever in contemporary times there were a British Prime Minister who became one out of nowhere, then that must be Rishi Sunak, the youngest PM the UK has had in 210 years, the first one of colour, and by extension the first of Indian extraction, the first non-Christian, avowedly religious person ever to hold the post. The firsts are many, as were the challenges that he faced. Rishi Sunak was born into a family with immigrant roots, though not directly Indian. His grandparents immigrated from Punjab to East Africa, where his mother and father were born in Tanzania and Kenya. After graduating from Oxford in 2001, Sunak became an analyst for Goldman Sachs, working for the investment banking company until 2004. As a Fulbright scholar pursuing an MBA at Stanford University, he met his future wife, Akshata Murthy, completing the cycle that drew him back to the Indian fold of ethnicity. Akshata is the daughter of Narendra and Sudha Murthy of Infosys fame. Rishi Sunak was Prime Minister for 20 months and he made 5 pledges to the people of UK. He promised to halve inflation, grow the economy, reduce government debt, cut NHS waiting lists and stop illegal immigrants coming to the UK in small boats across the channel. He succeeded in halving the inflation and growing the economy. Economics is Rishi Sunak's forte. Before he became Prime Minister, he was Chancellor of the Exchequer when Boris Johnson was the Prime Minister during the first phase of COVID-19. It was Rishi Sunak who planned and executed the much appreciated financial aid initiatives during the lockdowns, including furlough payments and the Eat Out to Help Out scheme for restaurants. He instituted a broad economic support program that dedicated some £330 billion in emergency funds for businesses and salary subsidies for workers aimed at job retention and easing the burden of the lockdown for individuals and companies alike. Those rescue programs were widely popular. Rishi Sunak is not only a man of economics and politics, he also packs in a keen sense of British humour. He once told a group of school children that he originally wanted to be a Jedi Knight when he grew up. At the NDTV World Summit, Rishi Sunak will elaborate on the 3 Ps of policy, power and perspective.
As the world moves between contradiction and creativity, between exhaustion and emergence, the NDTV World Summit 2025 will stand as a stage for reconciliation, for possibility and for vision. It will be where dissolving certainties are confronted and tomorrow's ideas are forged. And at its heart lies a renewed commitment. This is the story of a new India being told by a new NDTV.
Edge of the unknown. Risk, resolve, renewal. This is an invitation to venture beyond boundaries and borders, to explore the unfamiliar in pursuit of a more conscious collective future. The NDTV World Summit 2025 is where inherited realities meet unwritten futures, a space to challenge what is, disrupt what no longer serves, and design the world as it ought to be. Because the edge of the unknown is not where things end, it is where they begin.